Welcome back to 504 Road Trips. Today we continue south on US Highway 61 in the St. Louis Western Suburbs. We begin as we enter the city of Wentzville. But before we get into that, we ask that you hit the subscribe button if you like our videos. As of the editing of this video, only 19.7% of our viewers are subscribed. Subscribing alerts you to new videos as they're published, and it helps us by prompting the YouTube algorithm to promote and suggest our videos. We appreciate all of our viewers and subscribers, and we welcome your comments below as well. So we exited here at Wentzville for coffee and washer fluid at the Circular K. This was our first stop on day 3 of our journey, and we still have a long way to go. We titled this video Suburbs of St. Louis, but Wentzville is actually considered an exurb, meaning it's separated from the urban area by the suburbs. Wentzville has been the fastest growing city in Missouri by population increase since the 2000 census, when the population was just below 7,000. By the 2010 census, the population had exploded to 29,070, and in 2020 there were 44,372 residents in town. Wentzville was laid out in 1855 and named for the chief engineer of the North Missouri Railroad, Erasmus Livingston Wentz. The first Vietnam Veterans Memorial in the United States began in Wentzville in 1967 as a tree of lights and evolved into a carved eagle atop a pillar of granite by 1984. The city's largest employer is General Motors, which has a full-size van and small truck assembly plant called Wentzville Assembly. Rock and roll pioneer Chuck Berry's last residence was just outside of Wentzville, where he passed away in 2017 at the age of 90. Here we see a major interchange connecting US-61 with Interstate 64 and 70 and US Highway 40. Ahead, US-61 will join I-64 and US-40 in a concurrency, and we get a controlled city of Chesterfield. That's for Jordan, because I know he's going to ask in the comments. We're still on the Avenue of the Saints, by the way. This is the final stretch of the expressway connecting St. Paul, Minnesota and St. Louis, Missouri. We enter the city of Lake St. Louis, a planned community situated between two lakes in the angle between I-64 and I-70. Lake St. Louis began in 1961 when the concept of private resort communities was popular in the St. Louis region. But the developers had financial problems, and westward expansion of St. Louis called for a new town to be formed, and with its proximity to I-70 and US-61, I-64 hadn't yet been conceived. Lake St. Louis was the perfect location. The redevelopment began in 1967 and the first family moved in 1968. In 1974, the primary developer filed Chapter 11 bankruptcy due to the energy crisis of the time, and residents feared annexation by neighboring Wentzville and O'Fallon. So they petitioned St. Charles County for incorporation, which they were granted in 1975. At a special census in 1976, the city had a population of 2,445, and by the 2020 census, the population was 16,707. we enter the city of O'Fallon, Missouri, the largest suburb of St. Louis with a population of 91,316. This is one of two O'Fallons in the St. Louis metropolitan area, with the other, smaller O'Fallon, being across the Mississippi River in St. Clair County, Illinois. The city was named for John O'Fallon, the president of the North Missouri Railroad at the time. O'Fallon has been included in Money Magazine's 100 Best Places to Live 5 times since 2006. O'Fallon hosts various festivals throughout the year, including a celebration of lights, a fall arts festival, the O'Fallon Jammin' Summer Concert Series, and a wedding expo, among others. We enter the city of Weldon Spring, named for a spring near the original town site. The community was platted in 1864 and a post office operated here from 1875 to 1957. In 1941, the United States Army purchased 17,000 acres of land in the surrounding area. The Weldon Spring Ordnance Works built the largest explosives factory in the United States on the site. It was built to produce TNT and DNT for Allied forces during World War II. It closed on August 15, 1945, days after the end of the war. Most of the land was then sold. In 1955, the United States Atomic Energy Commission built a uranium ore processing plant on the 2,000 remaining acres. In 1966, the plant closed and remained abandoned for 20 years. The site was contaminated with over 1.5 million cubic yards of asbestos, radioactive uranium, and contaminated debris. The U.S. Department of Energy began a decontamination of the site in the late 1980s and completed it in 2001 with a 45-acre rubble mountain over the site. As of the 2020 census, Weldon Spring had a population of 5,326. At the Missouri River, we enter the city of Chesterfield, which had a population of 49,999 as of the 2020 census, making it the 14th most populous city in Missouri. The broader valley of Chesterfield was originally referred to as Gumbo Flats, derived from its soil, which, though very rich and silty, resembled gumbo when wet. For many years, Chesterfield was an all-inclusive place name for a vast unincorporated subregion of western St. Louis County, called West County by metro area residents, plus areas now incorporated as cities of their own. Police and fire protection in the community were fragmented and sporadic, the former provided by St. Louis County. As the population grew, Chesterfield Mall and other retail and commercial real estate developments sprang up. However, many residents were concerned about the lack of quality public services and that the municipal sales tax benefited the county instead of the community. An organization was formed calling itself the Chesterfield Incorporation Study Committee. The members passed the hat at neighborhood meetings, engaged legal help, drew up metes and bounds, and forced several failed public votes for incorporation. After a number of years, in 1988, the city of Chesterfield was finally established by its residents and has thrived as perhaps West County's premier residential, business, retail, and transportation center. On July 30, 1993, the levee that protected Gumbo Flats, now known as Chesterfield Valley, from the Missouri River failed. This was the first time the levee had failed since 1935. The town was told to evacuate, and the whole area of Gumbo Flats was flooded by feet of water. Today, the area has become the Chesterfield Commons retail area. Chesterfield's top employer is St. Luke's Hospital. We've also entered St. Louis County, the most populous county in Missouri with 1,004,125 residents as of the 2020 census. And that doesn't include the city of St. Louis, which is not part of St. Louis County. We enter the city of Town and Country, which has the highest median household income of any city in Missouri with a population of over 10,000 at $143,387. This is also one of the highest median incomes of any city in the United States. The community was incorporated as a village in 1950 and as a city in 1974. Town and Country is the location of Belle Reve Country Club, which hosted the 1965 US Open, the 1992 PGA Championship, and the 2018 PGA Championship. The city had a population of 11,640 as of the 2020 census. At exit 25, we see a junction with I-270, the outer beltway around Greater St. Louis. And here we see the first Control City sign over the main line that indicates the upcoming St. Louis. But if you've been paying attention, signs at the on-ramps have been displaying St. Louis as the Control City since Chesterfield. We enter the city of Frontenac, a wealthy inner-ring suburb of St. Louis. The signature landmark here is Plaza Frontenac, a high-end mall featuring many prominent retailers such as Saks Fifth Avenue, Neiman Marcus, and Tiffany & Company, among others. Frontenac had a population of 3,612 as of the 2020 census. It's here that we're going to begin to wind this video down, as we'll be exiting I-64 and US-40 shortly, about 5 miles short of the St. Louis city limits. At that exit is also the end of the Avenue of the Saints, which after all that mileage also falls 5 miles short of St. Louis. We conclude here as we prepare to turn right onto Lindbergh Boulevard. Thanks for watching, and a special thanks to those of you who have subscribed. If you like this video, please give us a thumbs up, post a comment, share and follow us on social media, and join us for our next 504 road trip.